Hello and welcome to U.S. History class. This is U.S. History from 1865 until the present day, and we are on Chapter 8, the Jazz Age. And I was just finishing up that lecture because we are now on virus vacation, and I just wanted to go over something that you're going to need in the upcoming chapters because you're going to be doing your notes a little bit differently. So here is a history analysis words for your chapter. You're supposed to put which chapter, and now you're going to use these. I know you needed to do it for chapter 10. And this is just going to be a sample on, I'm going to kind of show you how to go about it. If you don't understand the history analysis words, you had a quiz on it at the beginning of the semester, and there are 2 videos going over the definitions of the history analysis words that you can review if you don't understand them. You should also be able to find in the documents for class a sheet that you filled out earlier with the definitions and the words. So if you need any of those reviews, you can review that. So what we're doing here is we're finding an example. I just wrote a few of these words. I have voice, agency, patriotic history, democratization. I couldn't spit it out. Democratization, hierarchy, top-down history, bottom-up history. And depending on the assignments, one assignment you have to do, find something for each of them the best you can. I think I give you a leeway of 5, not being able to find 5. And then I think for later chapters, maybe 12 and 13, you have to find 15. And you're going to put it in sentence form of what you find. So here I have the textbook, the hard copy. You have the digital textbook. And we're just going to look for an instance of voice. The Jazz Age, 1919 to 1929. Let's see. It talks about the Ku Klux Klan rises to power. I think I said in the first part of this lecture that when women got the right to vote, that the KKK went from, a smaller, dwindling membership, and then it shot up to 2 million and then to 5 million. The reason is because the power that was being held by many white supremacist men that would join the KKK they were feeling infringed upon, and so they felt like they needed that power back. They wanted more than their own power or their own voice. So we saw that. Now, you need to understand that the KKK isn't just about race. It doesn't think women should have power. It didn't think Catholics should. It was anti-Jewish, against African Americans, obviously, because of all the violence towards newly freed slaves and that sort of thing. So it's important to note that. So that's kind of where our chapter begins. But what I was going to put is for voice in 1920, women got the right to vote. They were once called the silent citizen. So that would be that would be an example of voice. I might even put voice in the sentence. Maybe in 1920, women got, maybe I put women's voice was heard when they got the right to vote. They were once called the silent citizen. Okay, so you want to have the word voice in there. Sorry that's so messy, but it's an example. Agency. Let's see. Agency. All right, we talk about the Model T Ford, Henry Ford, your sample paper is really good. It actually talks about, it's called The Assembly of the Middle Class. And the sample paper I got is actually from a student at Gateway, one of my first classes. Actually, it was my first class. It was really brilliant. And I would say that's agency because the lower class, if you read your sample paper, lower class, factory workers, that worked for Ford, Henry Ford, gained agency, I would say gained economic agency when he raised wages from $1 a day to $5 a day. He was trying to make the middle class bigger. So that would be an example of that. So lower class factory workers that worked for Ford gained economic agency when they raised wages from $1 to $5. Okay, I thought there was another green marker here. This one is not so good. I am finding, another green marker. Okay, so the next one is democratization. Oh, I'm sorry, patriotic history. It really talks about in the video that you're supposed to watch on D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation. It's the background. It talks about what is Birth of a Nation. It really talks about Woodrow Wilson and how he was a revisionist history person. Woodrow Wilson was the first person to show the first movie in the White House, and it was The Birth of a Nation, which is terribly racist. Now, D.W. Griffith was born in Kentucky, and he was a fantastic, phenomenal filmmaker, producer, and that sort of thing. It's just too bad that it was for this movie because it was really, really, really racist. But for patriotic history, we know patriotic history sounds fantastic, but that's not really what it means. Patriotic history really means only saying the good things about a country and not talking about both its bad and good, because if you can't talk about the good and bad of a country, you can never get better. So if you only talk about the good things, that's kind of a narcissistic view. And you know, just like if it's a person, if a person never thinks they do anything wrong, they can't changing it better, neither can a country. So review that definition as well, but I would put Woodrow Wilson, supported revisionist history, which is not correct history, revisionist history, with, you know, the showing of Birth of a Nation. A type of patriotic history. Right. All right, democratization. Okay, I would say democratization with, it's kind of a weird one, but I'm going to go for it. What do you say? So remember, democratization is really all about being level, everyone having the same. So I'm going to say that prohibition was an attempt at democratization regarding alcohol. Alcohol. And I'm going to put gender because women really weren't supposed to drink. It was really looked down upon in 1920. But prohibition was kind of a leveling of the playing field. Nobody was supposed to drink, whether male or female. And it could be seen as a strange kind of democratization because it was level. Before then, men could drink. Also, many people think that it was kind of a women asserting upon men a little bit of power. kind of religiously, saying that it's, it can do a lot of harm, and so they should take it away completely. And of course, we know prohibition didn't work. It was only from 1920 until 1934. Okay, hierarchy. Looking for hierarchy. Huh. I would say there was a hierarchy in and among bootleggers in America. So you were to watch those two videos on George Remus, which are absolutely awesome. He was the richest bootlegger in the United States at the time of Prohibition. He made millions. Now he had to bribe people millions because he was bribing police officers, senators, judges, all the way up to one of the secretaries for Harding. Because Harding's, presidency was extremely corrupt, and they called it the Ohio Gang. So corrupt, scandalous. So the hierarchy, definitely there was a hierarchy, and George Remus, who went to Cincinnati and really set up his, he was the Bourbon King, set up his kingdom here, bootlegging. He was at the top of the hierarchy. Okay, so there were different people that would trickle down all the different kinds of alcohol. And a lot of times they would mix it with water or turpentine or something that was like lethal. But George Remus did not. He sold it very, very pure. That was like his signature. Okay, top down history, we could say, a book on George Remus, which I'm not sure that he's in your chapter, but I do, let's see, 1920s, Fitzgerald wrote The Great Gatsby, and we know The Great Gatsby was written after George Remus. Yeah. So I added George Remus to your kind of repertoire, but you could say, top-down history, because he is really the star of Great Gatsby, even though he changed his name. So F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote the book Great Gatsby after George Remus, modeled it after him. So a book on George Remus would be top-down history. All right, and I actually have a book on George Remus. It's fantastic. The Bourbon King. Here it is. Just about finished with it. It's pretty amazing. But it's about one person who was an elitist. At a New Year's Eve party, he passed out diamond pendants for lapels of the men, 200 guests, and all the women got brand new luxury sedans. So cars, they got cars. So he's definitely the 2% elitist, okay? Now he was born extremely poor, came from Germany, but he made millions bootlegging. All right, so then we have bottom-up history. Let's see if we can find someone. Let's see. Talks about Hoovervilles. All right. The monkey trials, the Scopes trials, where evolution versus creation was argued. There's a little excerpt here in your chapter. You may want to put the name of the teacher. I believe his name. Where did it go? I believe it was Scopes. It happened in Dayton, Tennessee. I've actually been to the courthouse. It's very tiny, very interesting. Just trying to look at the name. Yep, John Scopes. So John Scopes, he's just, he's an ordinary dude. He was the teacher in the Scopes trials that was arguing evolution and creationism. He was a teacher that was teaching evolution, and he was fined $100, and he took the court case to Dayton, Tennessee. And then he actually won, and evolution could be taught in public schools. So this would be an example of bottom up history, because it's just an ordinary person. It's not an elitist. The elitist is the top down. Bottom up is just an ordinary person and looking at history from their perspective, from the bottom up, and it's just exactly how it sounds. Okay, so this is how you'll do the, this is an example of how you'll do the history analysis words, just kind of going over some for chapter 8. I believe it's assigned for you for chapter 10. You need to check on that, but I'm pretty sure. And hopefully this will help you as to what, I'm looking for. All right, so we're going to just close with, you will have a Langston Hughes poem, a few poems, and you're going to pick one and write a reflection on it. And I'm going to play Mother to Son. We have Viola Davis is going to read the poem, and let me set that up and I'll be right back. Thank you. Okay, I'm back, and we're going to listen to a poem. It's one of the poems listed on your paper that I'm going to upload for you. You're going to pick one of these poems and just tell me what you think about it, how you felt when you read it, that sort of thing. We are kind of spotlighting Langston Hughes. He was in the Harlem Renaissance. That was in your chapter for chapter 8. So I'm having this poem read to you. I read you one, my favorite one, A Dream Deferred, in part 1 of the Jazz Age chapter 8. And this is Mother to Son by Langston Hughes. And it's read by Viola Davis. Oh, and then it says, I'm not sure. It says at the bottom of the YouTube video that then he reads it himself. So he read a lot of his poems, and you can hear them on YouTube, which I think is just amazing to hear those historical voices of the past. So we'll go ahead and do this. Right. Here we go.
Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time I's been a-climbing on, and reaching landings, and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps 'cause you find it's kinda hard. Don't you fall now, for I's still going, honey. I's still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair.
So he does recite it.
Poem, Mother to Son. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time I's been a-climbing on, and reaching landings, and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps 'cause you find it's kinda hard. Don't you fall now, for I's still going, honey. I's still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair.
All right. Whoops. I think it's playing something else. Okay. So that should help you for chapter 8. I apologize for so many delays. Virus vacation has been quite challenging, and I've had quite a few technology issues, but hopefully we'll be caught up and get right back on schedule. All right, you have a great day, and I hope this helps you with Chapter 8 and those to come.